What is up, internets? It's Casey Turbos, and it's time to do an animated walk for the day. Just had tried this earlier and it just crashed, so I'm going to redo it all again. That's all right. I hope that you enjoyed yesterday's. If you liked it, definitely remember to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. If you didn't like something about it, definitely leave it in the comments and I'll happily get to it. Or if you really like something and I should do more of it, let me know. So one thing that I was thinking about is for at least the next 12 days or so was going through and talking about the 12 principles of animation. Those were laid out in the amazing Disney animation Bible, The Illusion of Life. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first one that they talk about is squash and stretch. So let me read that here for you. The most important principle is squash and stretch, the purpose of which is to give a sense of weight and flexibility to objects. It can be applied to simple objects like a bouncing ball, or more complex constructions like the musculature of the human face. And sorry, my screen just went out on there. Okay, taken to the extreme point, a figure stretched or squashed to an exaggerated degree can have comical effect. In realistic animation, however, the most important aspect of the principle is in fact that an object's volume does not change. So when it's squashed or stretched, if the length of a ball is stretched vertically, then the width needs to contract correspondingly. Anyways, let's get into our walk for the day and just kind of keep that stuff in mind. I'll bring it up and we'll mention it as we're going. So without further ado, let's switch over to screen sharing. Again, let's see if that works. Okay, we're using the Goon Rig from the amazing folks over at the How to Cheat in Maya book. And we just opened that. Now we need some place for him to stand. So let's create a polygon cube here. And make sure the stream is still going good. Okay. Now, I was kind of thinking what would be fun is to do something where it looks like he's almost going into like a somersault, but I just can't do it. When you're doing posing, again, I always like to spread the feet out and rotate them out a little bit just so they're not front-faced, bland. Now, this is going to take a little noodling. I was doing this earlier when the stream crashed, so bear with me here for a sec, but we're just going to play here until we get something that we like for our initial pose. Hope you all are having an awesome, wonderful day today. It's really pretty bright and sunshiny here in Southern California. We had some rain the other day, which was really nice because we're in the midst of an amazing drought, which sucks. Anyways, so just kind of playing around with the hips, and let's jut them forward a little bit to get something that we like. Now switch the hands over to IK because we're going to want to use those for the movement here and make sure they're flat onto the ground. Something that I did in the other version that crashed, that's always fun to do, is actually get up out of your chair and go and try and do the things that you want to animate in real life. Shooting video reference is a great way to learn and to grow and to try new things and really do that. For these kind of simple walks, though, I don't tend to always do that, but especially for things where it's not something I normally do, I definitely get up out of the chair and kind of try to do this myself, make sure that I've got everything working body mechanics wise. That is not something impossible to do, even though it might not be the most comfortable or regular thing, because that's, you know, I want to make it fun. I want to mix it up a little bit. Okay, and let's get them a little bit more over. And squash that a little bit more. Never too much. Keep going. One thing that a couple of my teachers, when I was going to school, taught me was to work within a pose, especially with blocks. Oh, is my screen frozen? Hold on. See if I can get it to go here. Zoom in. If I minimize it here. And open it back up. See if it'll go. Is it going here? Okay, let's try switching. Sorry for the screen freezing. Let's try switching back into screen share. And let's try just re-screen sharing. This is when it crashed last time, so hopefully it doesn't do it again. Okay, sorry about that. Hopefully this is still working. Let's go back to screen share, and it seems to just be crashing out here today. So maybe there's a way that I can see. Is this gonna work? All right, it seems to be streaming again. Sorry about that. I'll hopefully try and clean that up if I can figure out how to do that so that there isn't that delay and everything. But thanks for sticking with me. If you're still watching this, much appreciated, and I hope that you enjoy these little tutorials that we're doing. A good thing with posing is you want to keep a rule of the silhouette to make sure that you can kind of see everything. And instead of having the feet perfectly flat, let's put a little bit of ball roll. Not too much, but a little bit so it keeps kind of on the toes. And it looks like something we can start working with. Okay, so let's highlight everything and set a key there. And then go to File, and we definitely, unlike yesterday where we didn't save till the very end, we want to save this, especially with the crashes that we've been having. That's no good. And save that. Okay. Like I was doing in the first video, I always start off with the hips. You want to get those moving. The hips and the feet are starting off everything. So we got this foot, and let's move it forward there. And raise it up and rotate it back. So we got kind of a little step there. Whoop, 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 whoop. Okay, is that still showing on the video? Or did it freeze? All right, well, we are having some technical difficulties today, aren't we? Okay, let's see if we can't get back in here and just see if it'll keep going. Okay, seem to be getting all right there. I wonder why it keeps crashing. It's no good. Okay, so hopefully we won't have any more crashes today. If not, I might just have to. Oh well, let's just think positive thoughts. Always good to think positive. Okay, and we're gonna rotate that back. And then fix that rotate. So we got a couple of steps there. Now let's move the hips forward because we're going to balance that out. A little bit more forward. Okay, do the opposite there. So actually, let's push that forward a little bit more. So we're going to have this hand move when that foot moves, and the forward hand when the foot. So I'm going to move forward there. And we'll worry about the rotate in a second. And this hand is going to stay on 12, it's on 12 and move it forward there. So this video saves and then it doesn't just crash. But we'll know in about an hour if that worked or not. Either way, we're still learning every day, learning something new. Again, like I said, for definitely if you have ideas or suggestions, one of them will probably be, hey, why don't you figure out how to make the stream not crash? That would be great. it crashing again? I think it is. I think it froze up again. Okay, well, for some reason this is just not working today. I wonder why that is. Let me try a couple of things here, and bear with me if you're still here. See if I make it full screen, if that'll pick up the page. I minimize it and bring it back up. And if I stop screen sharing and go back to screen share again, see if it freezes up again. Okay. All right. So we keep having a lot of technical difficulties. That is no good. So I'm sorry, folks. It's that. And plus, it's a little bit. One of the things that really is helpful for creating is to not have a lot of distractions or technical difficulties. I gotta say, it's definitely a true thing, at least for me. Move this hand forward. Up for the passing position. And forward. And then try and see if the first one kind of matches up with the second one. It was a little more scrunched in there than it was there, so this foot might need to go forward a little more. Okay, so let's see if we just have the basics there and if we can get it to actually work on video. Okay, that's going to be the basics of what we're doing. Very minimal basics just to make sure it's all moving and everything. Now let's spice it up and add some more everything. Okay, so getting back into squash and stretch. Squash and stretch is a big thing for today. What we're doing right now is we're just going to raise and lower the hips for this for the passing positions. Raise and lower. And let's get the graph editor out here. So we got the translate Y's here. Let's kind of balance those guys out. And go back to there. Balance this guy out. And this guy. I wonder if it's because it's Saturday, if it's busier, that would have anything to do with maybe why the live streams are crashing a little more. Things I think about. So anyway, to balance that out, let's go to the translate and kind of flatten that out since we're pretty consistent translate there. And let's see if that adds a little more weight to everything. Okay, now we didn't do a raise on the passing position for these, so let's throw that up there. Throw that down. Up, rotate it back. And up and rotate it back. So it's kind of dragging off there. Okay, so let's see if we added a little more weight into that. A little bit more. Now let's add some side to side. That's a funny picture. Okay, we're going to favor this foot because that's the contact foot. And vice versa there. Over there. Over there. And then back again. And then go into the graph editor. And balance those out. Still got to figure out the picture in picture as well. But for today, let's just focus on not having the stream crash so that you guys can see what I am doing and that Chrome doesn't keep kicking me off. Okay, now we're going to add a little swing to the hips to favor the contact foot. And go in your graph editor, balance those out. And this is just laying all the groundwork so that the body mechanics start off with the hips and then go. Okay, now we need to favor the positioning of them. So we're going to add a little rotate by. Because we're favoring this foot because it's the front foot, and then favor the other foot because that's going to be the leading foot. Okay, so let's see how that's working. There we go, getting a little swing there. Let's see if it's still playing in stream so you guys can see what I'm doing. Looks like it. All right, great. Great. So let's just save our work since we're getting somewhere now. Okay. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Again, I tend to talk to myself in timing or sing myself or make sound effects or anything just to kind of get a feel for the timing and the weight. Like this other shot that I have, one that I'll put up eventually on the stream whenever I either don't put it up long enough and I just finally do, or I get to fixing a couple of things that I want to do with it. But it's like a space chick and jumps out of her spaceship and pulls out a gun. And I always, when I'm doing, do the noise effects for the door and then the noise effects for pulling out the gun and aiming it and stuff, I just find that if you can do the noise effects, sound effects to it, it helps with timing so that you know that things are hitting on at a good time. We can go into timing and spacing on a different day as well. Let's pick up these steps a little bit more. I think they're still a little too low to the ground. So we'll go into the graph editor and hit the translate Y, which is the vertical axis. And do the same for this foot as well. Now it's weird for me to do the graph editor in this screen, so apologies if that looks odd to you guys. I usually do it in my Cintiq screen instead. Let's see. And there's not enough rotate back on this foot, so it feels flat. Just very staticky. And let's see. Stream still going? Yep, it is. Great. Okay, now let's add some tone. Nah, you know what? I'm gonna just take the whole thing on both of them. So I selected both of them. I highlight the translate Y's on both and kick them up. Always shrink it down if that's not enough. Because I want to put some rotate in there. I want to do some toe drag and everything in there. Okay. Next, we're gonna offset the chest from the movements we were doing on the hips before. So let's get into there and start with this hand is in front, so we're gonna favor that a little bit there, and a little bit there, a little bit this way, a little bit that way. And again, it's totally fine to over-exaggerate and then pull back. That tends to be easier than noodling a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And on this one, gonna rotate Z that way, rotate Z that way, rotate Z that way, rotate Z that way, and pull that out. So let's see if that works about right too. Yeah, that's working okay. Yeah, I think I want to tone down everything because it does feel a little, and balance it out. So again, go into the graph editor and we're just going to pick all the rotate Y's. And since it was a little much, we'll pull that down, pull it up, balance this off. And if you wonder kind of how I'm doing this, and this is again simplistic stuff, but this is a 4. So just line it up all on 4s, that's a 4, so line it up all on 4s. And go ahead and rotate Z. I'm sure there's probably a bunch of people out there that are like, yeah, this stuff's way easy. But there's other people out there who might not have done this before or ever or know much about Maya at all or animation. So I'll try to make these tutorials kind of fit for good tips for intermediates and advanced and beginners. Like I said, I'm sure there are people out there. I don't know how many people are doing daily tutorial vids for animation out there. I don't think there's too many. So hopefully I can get the quality working and the stream working on all this so that I can do it real consistent and help people out and really learn how to do some animation stuff. It is fun. get your ideas out of your head and see them move and come alive. And right now what I'm doing is adding a little bounce in the chest. It's going to be a little bit of compression, or as we were reading earlier, some squash and stretch. But I'm really going to get into some volumetric squash and stretch in a little bit once we get everything working, and that'll be a little bit different. So we'll see. But as you can see, there's a little bit of, I'm using my finger, that's not going to help. Right here in the abdomen, you can see it compressing in and pulling out a little bit. And that's, again, kind of talking about what we were doing earlier, where the volume stays the same, but you can see it squishing a little bit. Okay, and we'll go back into the rotate X's and balance those out a bit. And I should have the little vanilla walk cycle video up later this afternoon for those who watched the video yesterday, so they can check that out. And we're just taking the rotate X's, select all of them, and balancing those out. And let's do the same for the hips. Rotate X on the hips. And yeah, that's pretty good. I might do a little bit more of that though. It's pretty subtle, so but we can get there in a little bit. Let's again save our work just to make sure, and check the stream, make sure we're still broadcasting okay. Yep. Okay, great. So hopefully, yeah, let's just not talk about those errors anymore. I don't want to jinx anything. All right, so let's look at the hands. Hands seem pretty staticky right now, pretty flat. And we're also getting some intersection between the leg and the arm over here as well. So we want to make sure that we're pushing that hand when it moves forward a little bit further forward. And so we're going to go into the graph editor here and go into the translate Z, because that is the axis that it's moving forward on. We're going to push that forward. And I have to kind of up and down here, where if you have two monitors, this is where it really comes in handy, because you don't have to pull the graph editor up and hide the graph editor. You can just do it simultaneously. So let's see if that's intersecting there. No intersection, good. And now we're getting the intersection again over there. So we're going to go back into the graph editor and pull that one up a little bit more. So now if you look at this arm, it's not going to intersect with that knee anymore, which is kind of annoying. And just, you know, that doesn't happen in real life. And you're trying to make this as believable as you can with the weight and everything. Even in such what I would deem a very uncomfortable position. A lot of blood was rushing in my head when I was on the floor attempting this earlier. So, you know, kids at home, don't do that for too long. And it looks like we're probably getting some intersection on that side. Let's flip it over. Yep, we are. So that means we are going to have to start off with this hand further forward. Again, go into the translate Z. Push that forward a little more, and let's see if that cleared it up. Still a little bit, so maybe a little bit more. Okay. Okay, so got that, and we're getting some intersection here again. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's right here where the knee is plowing into that arm. You don't want that. Nobody wants that. That wouldn't be fun. And so that means we're going to have to remove that forward a little more. That should clear that up. Okay. And shouldn't be anything further after that. But the distance on that next move might be off, so let's check that. And what I'm talking about here is going to be the distance between these two where the tangents are flat. And yeah, oh, sorry. Okay, so let's look at everything we got so far. And I'd also like the hands to raise up higher when they're passing. They seem still pretty low, kind of like we were doing with the feet earlier. So we're going to select both of these, and you can just hold Shift when you select the other one, and then I'll help you do both of them. And translate Y, translate Y. And this is just evening it out, so this will be where it was highest before, but we want to push that higher. So let's take all of them and push that higher still. I gotta get this picture-in-picture thing working. That is throwing my game off, my animation game. Okay. Now let's add some know what, before we do that, again, save, just because everything is a little laggy today on YouTube. And we're gonna do something with the hands, because these are very flat, poseless, lifeless, blah hands. So let's get a little more fun going in them. Fun, you say? Oh yeah, hands are the best, man. I love animating, drawing hands. They take a long time to master, and I still mess up every once in a while, but I think they're one of the best ways to show expression in anything and really add, quality and life to something that isn't really there with just looking at, hips and shoulders and femurs and all that stuff. I don't know why I said femurs. Who knows? I'm talking for an hour here, so I might come just say some random stuff every once in a while, but hopefully there's at least some good that everyone can get. Okay, now we're going to add some rotate back, kind of some drag on there. And with this one, since we have the angle of the hands here, there's not just a clear rotate that we can grab there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to drag it down there. You can hold shift and really rotate. So do something like that. Let's see, how does that look? Let's see, that looks better. We might need to still raise it up more, because if I'm doing drag on the fingers as well, that's going to intersect with the little ground cube that we have. But let's see. It's at least something better than we had before. Again, save it off, and let's try it on the other side. And we're just going to set a key on 24, because for some reason those rotates weren't saved there. So. And rotate it down. Okay, let's see how that's working. And let's check the stream to make sure you guys are still getting the video. You are. Great. I'm glad that this is working better than it was earlier. Okay. Now, you know what? Before we move on to really futzing with the hands some more and doing that, let's fix a big stiff issue that you can see right now. Stiff issue, that's not appropriate to make a joke about. So yeah, if you can see, the neck just feels really stiff. The rest of the body has some movement and some everything in there. So let's get that loosened up here. So let's try raising it, squishing it in on the passing position and down on the contact. But I think we're probably going to end up doing the reverse of that. But play with it. Like I said, one of the big things with the animation is try this, try that, try this, try that, and then watch it and see if you like it. Yeah, that seems a little too over the top. We don't want that. So we're going to do the opposite. So again, pull up the graph editor, go into the rotate X, because that's what we were using. And first off, we're going to kind of flatten this off just so it's a little more uniform in the movements. And like I said, we're going to try that reverse of what we had. So as soon as this is all a little more flat, we're going to grab those guys and flip them and do the inverse of it. Okay, and let's see. That feels better. Again, you don't want too much. We didn't really want the neck flopping around, but just a little bit of movement to it. And let's do the same on the head. So we probably want to offset those. I always like offsetting the neck and head so they kind of hang back from the movement of the chest. And I don't like that head movement, so let's try. First off, I'm going to just balance it out just so we have something to work with. Make a please stand by, like they used to have in the old TV shows. Let's see if that looks any better. Yeah, that looks better to me. And what we're looking at here is right here on the neck and the chin as it's squashing a little bit into the chest when it moves. And I think we should actually add a little more up and down on the passing positions on there. I'm not getting enough up and down feeling from there. So go to the hips, go to the translate Y, and crank those guys up a little more. Let's see how it feels. That feels better. Before we get in the hands, because those are one of the things that I do kind of last, let's try something out here. Since we were talking about squash and stretch, let's do a little bit here. Let's go to, and again, this is kind of playful, all this stuff. It's, I don't have this all completely planned out when I start, so it's kind of hit or miss. So let's see what we can get. Let's do the waist height, and we'll shrink it down on the passing position and then push it up. Shrink it down, push it up, shrink it down, push it up, shrink it down, push it up. Feels a little too much. So let's fix that. Now we gotta find what controller is at the waist height. And then remember from what we read, we gotta do a little bit of the as well if we're playing with that so that it keeps the volume. Yeah, that looks a little better. Still feels a little too much. Let's tone it down a little bit. Because we just want to feel it. We don't necessarily need to see it. Maybe a little bit of seeing it. We really just want to feel that it's being squished. So let's see. Squish, squish, squish. Okay. Now, we're going to save our work here just since we've been having some troubles today. And we want to expand the width out a little bit. And compress it there. Not too much. And the width controller on this rig is a little funky. But I do like this rig. It's very lightweight, so it's easy to stream it and easy to get pretty good playback even in the viewpoint. Okay, so now let's take those. And we did not do such a good job of laying that out when we were first doing it, so we're going to have a little more balance and work to do here. You guys are liking these videos and getting something out of it. I'm happy to do them every day because I'm going to be doing this stuff anyways. So this is another way to add some extra content that people might enjoy. Some tutorials. Okay, so again, what we're looking at here is this waist controller, and you see a little bit of squash and stretch going on. Now, what's going to be fun is when we add some to the ribs and maybe a little bit on the chest as well, and then we can offset those by a frame, and we can get some fun stuff going. So again, this is going to be here at the root controller, and we're going to look at the ribs. So we're going to squish those up a little bit. And pull them out, squish them up, and pull them out. And again, it's okay when you're just setting your first thing not to have it completely. Bob Ross thing is the happy trees, right? Get your happy trees going. If you're not familiar with that, I'm sure there's like 10,000 memes about Bob Ross's happy trees. But the concept of it is that when you're doing art, there's not really, mistakes are okay. Basically, you can always just turn them into trees. And kind of with animation, that's same way. Sometimes you mess up doing something, and it gives you a different idea or a different thing to try out that you might not have thought if you wouldn't have messed up. So feel free to try new things in all aspects of life. Okay, this might still be a little too much, so let's see. You can see now it's not only squashing and stretching at the waist, it's also doing it on the ribs as well. And I'm okay with that. except it's kind of doing something weird in the head. I might need to redo the head movements because the neck feels stiff again. Okay, so let's see what we're doing again. And let's do the ribs because we're making sure that kind of we keep the same volume as much as we can because this isn't a really precise rig and it's not as noticeable as it would be on something like a bouncing ball if you just stretched it but offset the width. Oh, sorry about that. Looks like either the mailman's here or my mom's crazy old dog is just crazy. Mom passed away recently, so I got her dog to take care of. And he's kind of old and senile. But anyways, you didn't tune in for Let's Talk About My Dog Hour. We're talking about animation here. Original life, the wonderful world of creating. And we're just balancing out that ribs width here. There's a way to edit the video so I can edit out that disconnect stuff. But I'm talking about it so people will know even if I edit it. Alright, so let's see if that worked. I think it's a little too wide on the width stuff that we're messing with, so let's go ahead and shrink that down a little more. And we're just going to do a little bit in the chest. Just a little bit. Let's see. And go to the chest height. And we're just going to do it. This is going to be real small. And it's okay. Like I said, when you're just setting things, these are kind of just want the basics so you can get in there and twist it up a little bit. Okay, so let's go into the chest height, and we're going to balance that out a little more. Should I not get one in here? Bad. Bad turbos, bad. I want a squash on this one, so squash, raise up, squash, raise up, squash, raise up, squash, and raise back up. And just make sure the stream is still working. Yep, you can still see all that. Great. So some really cool books if you're starting animation, and hopefully I'll do maybe some reviews on these books and talk about them a little bit more when time permits. The Illusional Life and Richard Williams' Animation Survival Kit are two great resources, and that's usually what everyone says is like the big animation bibles. But one of the ones that I really got the most out of is Eric Goldberg. He has a animation crash course book, which is just phenomenal. He's the guy who did The Genie, and that was one of my favorite movies when I was little, so I'm attached to it that way. But also, just the way that he lays out stuff. Sometimes, I don't want to say anything. It's just very what's the way to say it? It's very laid out so that if you're an animator or a creative person, you can simply pick up the concepts without having to read too much. And not that there's any problem with reading, but sometimes it's nice to just go in there, and as people who work visually and or creatively or anything, just to get a visual example of the principles and the talking understanding of them in a really simplistic, quick, and easy fashion. It's a great book for starting out, and I still reference it a lot. I think there might even be a DVD thing that you can get at that one. I know there is a Richard Williams one. And there's a great Frank and Ollie site that you can check out too if you're into animation. That one of my old mentors. So let's see if that worked. That was the chest width to make sure we're keeping the volume of this stuff. Now, what I was saying before is we want to offset the ribs in the chest from the waist controller. And we're just going to play around a little bit with that. So let's check, grab the chest height and width. and ribs width and height. And we're going to delay them 1 frame from what we have right now. Let's see how that works. And now let's take the chest height and width and let's delay that again 1 more frame. So it should be kind of like an accordion kind of a thing. Action I got going on here. Okay, so now you see we got some squash and we got some stretch going on there. Now let's get into doing a little more with the butt controller. Everybody loves the butt. I don't know why I said that. But you're streaming for already probably, oh, there's no timer here on this stuff, but probably at least half an hour. Guess it's time for me to say something awful. So let's see. And the little just rotate to extra on here because the hip controller does the actual movement of the whole pretty much upper torso, and the booty controller just does the butt alone. And just pretty much doing what we did with the hips controller, but doing it on this one so that we can offset it a little bit and add a little bit of life in there too. And now let's go in and let's clean those up. Because see, we didn't really do too well of setting. By we, just me. I'm the one doing the tutorial. You guys are awesome. You guys are excellent. You guys are probably all amazing animators in your own right. It's really cool animation now that I'm thinking about it, that this kid did recently. Like it was Superman versus Goku, and it's just like a little flip book thing, but it's really cool. You should check that out online if you guys get bored and want to see something. And it's really, I don't think he's an animation student. I think it's just, but it turned out really good. That's really cool. If he is, okay. And let's balance out the rotate Z's. Okay. And now let's check and see if the video is still streaming so you guys can still see this. Looks like it is. All right. And let's do a little more rotate X. Because I'm hardly feeling it, and I want to feel an extra bounce on there. Let's exaggerate there, a bit more, exaggerate there, a bit more. Okay, so let's try that and see what that looks like. Still doesn't feel like enough. So let's first delay it back frame. So you're just gonna hit controller, select it all, and just shift the mouse button and drag it back. Okay. Actually, let's try doing the rotate on the hips the other way, the other direction. See if that kind of gives me the, yeah, that's more what I was looking for. So you see now that it kind of bobs up in the passing position. That looks a little better, I think. And now the head just feels like it's just a little too much. Let's take that down a little bit. Maybe it's the neck. So, the reason you're seeing so much in that is because we're doing a bunch with the chest that with the squash and stretch on the chest that we didn't have before. So that's why the neck looked kind of a little bit better before. So we're just going to noodle with that for a little until we get it looking. What if we even go back again to what we had before? I'll keep the chin going a little more than what that is. Okay. And as soon as we get this neck working, we'll move on to the hands and really give some more life to those. That's all right for me right now, but I feel like we need to exaggerate the chin and the head a little bit more. Maybe by doing that, we'll just offset it a frame and see if that gives us what we want. And then let's offset the neck a frame. That feels real stiff and rigid, so let's pull them one more frame. There we go. That feels pretty good. Now we're just going to add a little more back into the head and the rotate so that there's a little more swing in there. So you can see now it kind of tips out a little bit. Or we can add a little bit on the chin or something to really play up that a little bit more. Okay, so let's get into the hands and fingers and everything. I love doing hands. Hands are great. First off, if we're going to do that, we're going to need to raise up the translate on those because any sort of drag we're going to do is going to bleed into the floor. Okay, so one thing, hit the wrong screen. Okay, put those up, and I need to scroll back into our scene. If you hit F, it's going to pull back really hard. Okay, so let's see. Now, it looks like a lot now, but we're going to add drag to the fingers, so that's going to keep it closer to the floor. So don't worry about that looking too much right now. So let's set what we have here, and then let's set it on 14. And on 6, we're going to grab all of these guys. We're going to drag them back. And then on 12, we're going to pull them up a little bit. So we got a basic drag back and flop down. And then we'll split that up after a while. And then set it again at 24 and then 38. And so at 30, we're going to drag it back. 36, pull it up, and down. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 1, 2. Again, that's a little too much on the up position, isn't it? Well, let's finish on this before we get into that. Then we also want to do the thumb, so we're going to drag thumb down, lift the thumb up, and let it land down. And then drag the thumb back, lift the thumb up, and let it land down. Now the thumb, I like the thumb to kind of hit a little bit harder. So we're going to take the thumb spread and going to let it land 1 frame instead of 2 frames. And we'll actually minimize that because it doesn't need to be too hard. Okay, so let's see how that works. Now the next thing I want to do is we're going to take the mid and tip of the middle, mid and tip of the ring, and the mid and tip of the little, and the index as well. So I'll go ahead and grab that one to begin with. And we're going to delay those 1 frame, and we're going to just take the tip, 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 and tip. And we're going to delay those 1 frame. And then I'll show you how that looks. And we'll do that because we're breaking up the joints, so it's a little bit. And then now to break up the hand as a whole, I'm going to take the index, base, mid, and tip, and we're going to lead with that. So we're going to move that stuff forward 1 frame, and little base, mid, and tip. Take all that stuff and drag it back 1 frame just to mix up the hand so that it's not all together. As you see now, the fingers are a little more splayed instead of like a mitt. And now we have a little bit of intersection with the ground on here. If you see the tip of the finger, the ring finger goes through the ground. So we're going to need to go in and readjust the little base, and pull that up a little more, or maybe this way. There we go. Now we're not intersecting the ground. So we want to. So let's see how that feels. Boom, boom, boom. Like I said, it's really fun to put sound effects to your stuff when you're doing it. I find it helps with the feel of stuff. And I think I want to exaggerate that index finger a little more so it hits a little bit harder. So just go in. Now I'm going to accentuate the up and down again on the hips. For some reason, I just give you both up and down position. Like you feel that a little bit more now. Okay, swing over to the other hand and let's work on those fingers. We're going to pretty much do the same thing, or at least similar to what we had before. So I'll set a key on 12, and 26, 36, and just set the 50 just for the sake of doing the fingers, and set the key. Okay, and let's grab index base tip, middle base tip, ring base tip, and little base tip. And drag those inward, and then pull out to let them flop down. Drag them inward, and pull them out to let them flop down. So let's see. Okay, now let's do the thumb. Drag the thumb back, hold it up, let it fall. Drag the thumb back, hold it up, and let it fall. Okay, so let's see. Now I want to take the mid and tip of each of the fingers and delay those a frame. The tip, and delay those a frame as well. We'll watch that so you guys can see that again. And now we're so that the hand doesn't look too static, so we're delay the little finger and the index finger. Now, do we have any intersection? There's a little bit of lag on here since I'm streaming, so I don't see it here, so let's just kind of slide through it. Oh, a little bit there. But not on that one, so let's go to the little base, and I'm just trying to get rid of that a little bit. Okay. And then let's take the thumb spread, and I don't like those on two, to land on twos. Okay, I think I'll exaggerate a little more on this hand than on the other one just to mix it up. Okay, now let's play with the feet a little bit more. I might close the graph editor, so I'm going to be going back in there. For the graph editor, if you don't have it up, just hit Window, Animation Editors, Graph Editor. And then we're going to go over here and we're going to do some toe dragging. So drag the toe back, lift it up, and I think for this one, we might just have it go on ones instead of twos for where it lands. So it lands a little bit harder than I usually do. I usually do two. Two's pretty relaxed. You just kind of feel it. One, you see it. Well, I guess you don't see it on ones, you just really feel it on ones, and twos seems a little more natural, so I guess you feel it kind of slam down a little bit more. I think I might still raise those feet up a little more and drag them back, because those are pretty, it's pretty not too much of a change of shape between the shin and the heel there. You see this position stays pretty static, but if we could raise it up a little more and drag it back a little more, you'd see a little more change of shape. And that's pretty much what a lot of walking is about, just changing shape, especially when you're doing kind of a quick walk like these ones. And when I say quick walk, I just mean, you know, you're not spending a week and a half doing a walk cycle. You're something that you can start and get done with within a day. Let's get some toe action on this guy. Drag it back, lift it up, and flop it down. The other reason that I'm doing this on ones instead of doing it on twos is because since I have so much ball roll going, it looks a little awkward to rest kind of in this middle position for longer than a frame, because that wouldn't really be natural. Let's switch it back to 48 frames since we're done with that one hand. The reason that we did that was because we needed an extra frame for that. So let's see. Now, I really don't want the feet to be too much of an attention grabber. You kind of want to keep most of the attention here, although I love playing with hands, so that's always kind of do that. So I don't want to raise them up too much, because if you look too much and do too much with the feet, that's where the eye is going to like default go to. And we still want it kind of to be right in this section here. So that means that's where you want the most animation and the most eye-catching thing to be. So we're gonna try to get that change of shape that we wanted there. Oh, my rotates aren't very even there. So let's even those guys out a little more too. Okay, so let's see how that looks on the feet. See if that feels a little better to me. Maybe let's do a little. Let's try this. I don't know if this is gonna work. We might delete this. Let's try a little squash and stretch on the neck controller itself. So that's going to be the neck height. I'm just going to squash that down. Raise it back in. Squash it back down. Raise it back out. Now this might not work at all, but it could be fun to try. And then we'll delay it so that it follows after the chest as well. And neck height. Let's go and balance this out. I did a lousy job of evening that out. Let's see. Yeah, see, that feels better. That feels better. I like that a lot better. Now, like we were saying before, when you do squash and stretch, you have to make sure the volume kind of stays the same. So let's do a little neck width. And with that, and I can really see that very well. So let's, yeah, that didn't turn out too great. None of that looks like how I want it to look. So let's put that in the graph editor. One of my teachers that I had in school was really about the graph editor. He did like almost everything in the graph editor. And I do definitely more than I used to in the graph editor. I used to really like key everything on ones and then have an overlay on my screen and try and do it that way. But graph editor, you don't want it to do, it's a lousy animator, so you don't want to do all the work for you. But it's definitely a helpful tool. And it helps keep things real nice and smooth. So let's see how that works. Yeah, that feels pretty good. Now at this stage we could be done, but let's see if there's anything else we want to play with. First off, I think we could do more in the buttocks, directly in the buttocks. So let's play with that a little bit more. We can really like that. I want to do these positions. Let's see. Yeah, see, that looks a little bit better. And let's do a little bit of, well, first off, let's save it because I can. So, yeah, like I said, one of the things I like to do is I like to. Oh, if you hear that in the background, that is the crazy Zeke playing at the door. That's our little kitty. And I can see the camera's still working. It looks like it still is. Great, 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 great. I always like to move the mouth down and add a little pout. And maybe a little bit of. Weird thing is, for some reason, on the draw controller on this one, it's got the translates are different from the rest of the. Like the Y, which should be up and down, is like side to side or forward and back. And let's just try swinging it a little bit. And again, we'll probably tone this down. We might. It's playful. It's fun. It's about. And you can't really even see it, so I don't know if it's even worth. Well, let's play with the idea. So let's tone it up. Actually see it, not just feel it, but really see it. Waggle. So, and let's delay it 2 frames. What we got? That might be a little too much now. And again, what we're looking at here is the mouth movement. And this is here. See how it's closed and open. Or if this is a better angle. Oh, that's not going to be a better angle. Yeah, you can see it flop a little more there. Let's just tone it down just a little bit. So again, we don't want that to be the focus. We really want the focus to be kind of the squash and stretch of this area. And the kitty's in the pausing. All right. Let's do, just so that we're not looking at the same default thing, let's do something with the eyebrows here. Let's, yeah, you want to do a little bounce on the eyebrows? Let's do a little bounce on the eyebrows. Why not? So drag them back up there and squash them down there. Drag them back up there and squash them down. Drag them back, squash them down. Drag them back and squash them down. So let's see. Can't even really see that too much. But you can feel it. That'll mix it up. Yeah. There you go. Okay. And now the only other thing we do is translate Z on these. It feels a little too uniform. And by uniform, I just mean like there's not actually a key on there, because there's not. So let's translate, and we're going to push it forward a little bit. I usually like to favor contact position, which is the flat on the ground position, versus on this guy. Forward a little bit. Forward a little bit. Otherwise, it looks sometimes like the feet are slipping instead of raising off. And I'll do one where I show the exact right way to do a foot contact, where you do toe, ball roll, then drag, then land on the heel, then hit down, and then do the toe. It's kind of quicker videos. This works. And let's try one other thing. Okay, let's save our work. Less. Let's do some ball rolling. Lifts up a little bit so you get a little bit of not too static of an image. So it goes up and goes down again, just so that foot isn't too static when it's on the ground. See what I'm talking about? I'm talking about this back foot here. And here, pointing at the screen again, and that's not going to help anyone. It contacts here, and then we're lifting up a little bit with a little bit of ball roll, then back down a little bit, but ball roll. And just so that this contact position, the foot stays there. See, there's no movement in the heel. We want to keep that alive just a little bit. So just add a teeny bit of ball roll there. So just up and down. Not a lot, because you don't want to pop a knee, and you don't want to move to that, but you just want to kind of feel it. Kind of double bounce to the knee now on each step. And we'll go to the other side here too. And we'll pretty much do the same thing. Add a little bit up on the ball roll, and then down on the ball roll. And so there, and then up on the ball roll, and down on the ball roll. Okay, and now let's see how this guy looks. Let's give it off one more time. And show none. Nerve curves, nerve surfaces, polygons. It's usually what I default to. And let's take off the nerve curves. Those are the kind of controllers on everything. And hide all the other manipulators here. And again, if you notice why we did IK for the hands is so we could really plant them on the ground like their feet. We did the FK round and moving off of the movement of the body. Now the butt feels a little too, it's moving a little too much for me now that we've turned off those controllers and everything. So let's go ahead and tone that down a little bit. Yeah, it still feels, that's okay. It's always okay to over-exaggerate and then tone back down again. It's never a problem. All right, I think that's gonna be pretty good. Again, I'll probably go through after the stream's done and just go through and make sure that everything's working when I can see it at a better frame rate than when I'm streaming. But I think that'll give you looked at a little bit of extra squash and stretch in there today. So keep that principle in mind when you're doing your animation, or even when you're just doing this good. Here, let me, just in case this doesn't work, thanks for watching and like and subscribe. But I'm going to try switching back. We've had a little bit of trouble today from the screen share back to my video things. If not, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys have an awesome day. But let's see if that works. Okay, looks like it still works. All right, so even when you're drawing, squash and stretch is a great thing to use, which a lot of people don't think about when they're first drawing. They're thinking about symmetricals to match the right and everything. But if you look at a body, then I'm making this part of my face is getting squashed up, or this part is stretching, or if I'm leaning to the side, this part of my chest and my rib cage is squashing. So just something to keep in mind. It'll definitely help improve your art and your animation just by keeping that principle in mind. And if you guys like that, we'll keep doing this, the 12 principles of animation, and trying to include those a little bit more in the walk a day. Again, thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Make sure, if you do like my videos, to subscribe to the channel and give me a thumbs up. If there's things that you didn't like, or that you think I could do better on, or that you'd like me to focus, definitely throw it out in the comments. And thanks for watching. I hope this helps, and I hope you guys have an awesome day. Okay, love it. Bye.